once again, we find ourselves looking at Scratch and looking at our pseudocode from this week. Again, if you haven't watched the pseudocode video, I highly recommend that you watch that first and then watch this supplemental video. So like we did in week 1, what I'd like to do here is to recreate our pseudocode program using Scratch. And last time I didn't have enough room for our program, so click a little icon up here, it expands it so we've got a little more room. Okay, so we need to create some variables. I started here on the variable section. We're going to create a variable called how many numbers. We're going to create a variable called total. Okay, so let's recreate so that takes care of this part of our program. So now let's recreate the rest of it. So because we're displaying here and we're asking for a number as we did last time, under sensing we have this thing called ask your name and wait. And also we need to make sure that we start with this event, which is click. Now you could do other things. You could start the program when you hit the space bar or whatever it may be, but this just is one of the simplest. So to recreate our program, we need to say how many numbers do you want to add? And then, like last time, we said that when you use this ask and wait statement, it automatically puts the answer that a person types into a variable called answer. So we need to use a set to take the value that comes in answer and get it into how many numbers. Okay, so that really takes care of, now we've got our first 4 rows taken care of. Now we've got another variable here because we have a loop and we need something to count the loop. Now in Scratch, we have a few things they're a little different. And we don't really have the same thing as a while loop, but we have this repeat until, or we have this repeat a certain number of times, or we have this repeat forever. So we're going to use this one, repeat until. Now this is probably a little more like a while until, but we don't really cover that in pseudocode. So basically we're going to keep doing this until some condition is true. Our while loop is let's continue to do this while the condition is true. So do you see the difference? What we need to put in here is a logical expression, just like we had in our while loop. But this is, at what point do we get out of the loop? So we can, down under operators, we have these logical operators here. And we could do just something as simple as while some variable equals 4. We know we need to go through it 4 times. So let's do that. Let's create another variable. We're going to call it count. We need to set count to 0 to start. And instead of it 4 like that, I'm just thinking on the fly here, we want to repeat until count is greater than 3, right? So the first time it'll be 0, next time it'll be 1, next time it'll be 2, next time it'll be 3, and then it'll add up, and so then it'll come back. All right, the next thing that we need to do, we need to increment this. So we're going to say count is equal to, we get a plus over here, and we'll say count equals count plus, oops, I think I do that every time, count plus 1. All right, so now that just makes sure that count gets us there. All right, now what do we do inside? What are we going to do inside of this? Well, the first thing that we need to do is, once again, we need to declare a variable. And the variable is called number to add. Okay, got that done? Now, we're going to use the sensing. We're going to ask the user. We're going to drop that right in there. Enter a number to add. We already know that we need to use a set. Slip that in there. Number to add. And put answer here at the end. So that puts our value of what the user types in number to add. And then we need to, what's called, do a running total. So we're going to use, say, total equals, come back here. Oh, I did it right that time. Total plus number to add. And voila. By the way, when we did this incrementing count, another way that we can do it is to say change count by 1, which, let's face it, that's a lot cleaner, isn't it? All right, so we have our loop. We've declared our variable. We're grabbing our variable. We're adding to it. And we're incrementing by 1. So that really is everything inside the while loop. So we're going to go through the loop. And then at the very end, we want to show the total, right? So like we did last week, we need to use this join because we have something that's a literal that we're typing, which is the total of the numbers is, and we have something that is a variable. We'll put that in instead of bananas. All right. So I'm going to leave these on over here, and we're going to switch to the bigger stage, and we're going to run this thing. How many numbers to add? And okay, I see my first problem. Okay, we're stopping it. Let's go back because obviously this number needs to use this. So let's go to how many numbers, and I'm going to dump that right in here. All right, let's try it again. So basically what this means is that we're going to loop until count is greater than the number that we said. All right, let's try it. Let's flip back to a larger stage. How many numbers to add? 4. Enter number 1, 10, 20, 30, 40. Ah, it had me add 5 numbers. Now, I did this on purpose because I wanted you to see that a very common mistake, and that is that we missed it by a number. So what we really need to do here is we could say, we could either change this so that it is equal, or we could subtract 1 from this. So let's do what I think is just a simpler way to do it. We're going to grab this little guy and we're going to say count. So it's equal to, and I'm going to drag that one out and I'm going to drag this one in. So it's going to repeat until count equals, in our case, 4. Let's try it again. Flip this back. How many to add? 4. 10, 20, 30, 40. There we go. The number is 420. Now, why is that the case? You notice that that isn't really the number. Well, this is really something about Scratch, and that is that it kept the last data, it kept from the last one. So what we're going to do here is right up here at the top, we're going to set total equal to 0. That will actually take care of that problem. The other thing that I like to do when you're saying something up here is to add a space, so there's a little bit of a space. So let's do it one more time and check our results. So notice total 0 again. We're going to say 4, 10, 20, 30, 40. There we go. Now we got the right number. So this is the same program as week 1. It's just that it uses a loop instead, right? Did you notice that? I hope that this will help you to connect the dots when it comes to starting to use a while loop.